in new episode of Between Two Burns, a very, very special episode with maybe the most electric man in cigars.
Yes.
I've heard him be called that by many, many people.
I've been called worse.
We welcome in the one and the only Terence Reilly from Aganorsa Cigars. Terence, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, thank you for having me. Oh, what a kind of electric. Wow. Boogie.
Electric.
Yeah.
Actually, we've heard many different ways to describe you. I prefer electric as the number one.
I've actually got a couple new nicknames for you. I wanted to run by you. I was thinking maybe like Darth Validator.
Darth Validator is an incredible nickname.
The Validator Supreme.
Okay.
Or my personal favorite, Lord Validmort.
Any one of those works for you.
Yeah. It's a tough choice. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're in. We're going to talk some all things Aganorsa, but I'm going to throw something at you here. I'm going to throw a non-cigar softball at you.
There.
Since we just watched your beloved Celtics blow 2 consecutive 20-point leads, first time in NBA playoff history, a team has blown back-to-back 20-point games.
Hey, you know who's never done that? The Hornets.
The Hornets have never done that. Listen, you can't blow playoff games if you're not in playoff games. That's how that works.
Yeah. Got to make the playoffs. That's the first step to blowing.
That's exactly the first step.
That's exactly right.
So my question to you is, you're a beloved Boston fan of Boston sports. If you could only watch one of your teams for the rest of your life win a championship, which one would it be? Because you've got championships galore if you root for Boston. You've got Patriots. You got Celtics. You got Red Sox.
This century we do. This century. Yeah.
Well,
it's been a good century.
Most of your life. Let's put it that way.
I'd probably say the Bruins. I'd say the Bruins. I like the Bruins a lot, and they've only got the one. They got the one in 2011, which was great, but that's it since Bobby Orr days, and I would like to see the Bruins, and they've had a couple heartbreakers since then against the Blues, which they were a much better team than the Blues, but the Blues just outworked them and they deserved it and won by physical hockey. And then of course the 16 or 17 seconds or whatever it is that the people in Chicago say to me every time I see them, that was a tough one too. So I'd like to see the Bruins.
Do you feel good or bad for Marchand if he wins a championship with the Panthers?
So I'm kind of mixed on him because he was with the Bruins for so long, but if he were not on the Bruins, I would have hated him because I hated all the stuff he did.
Absolutely.
But he was on the Bruins, so he got a pass. So I'm kind of mixed on. I mean, I guess I'd be happy if he got a ring. He was with the Bruins a long time, and the Panthers are playing, So I'll say I'll be happy, but I'm a little mixed on it because I kind of was like, oh man, if he's ever not on the Bruins, I'm going to hate him so much. And but he was on us for so long that now I kind of have an attachment there.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I kind of thought maybe the Bruins would be the case just because they haven't had as much Boston fanfare, if you will, over the last 20
playoff
years.
Hockey is great, great playoff hockey. To me, it's the most fun to watch.
It's the best playoff sport.
Yeah.
100%. Best in-person sport is hockey. Best playoff sport is also hockey.
Yep.
Agreed.
The regular season can get a little doldrums like the NBA does, but all right, well, let's get into some cigar stuff. First off, we're going to start smoking some. I think we're going to get into the meat of it. What are you smoking right now?
So I'm smoking our Aganorsa Leaf 25th anniversary, 25th anniversary. It's a very special cigar celebrating 25 years, and we're actually on our 27th or 28th year now, I guess. So it took a while to really make sure that this was ready and right. It's got a couple years of age on it. It's rare that a cigar after being rolled is aged for that kind of time. And we only made 1,000 boxes of them, and it's a one-time thing. So I'm savoring it. I like this. It's a savoration validation.
That's good. That's
Thank
good
you.
right there. Yeah,
I just came up with that right now.
I like it. So I've smoked this. This will be the third one I've smoked. This is Jason's first time smoking it. And in our Instagram post, I put that this has the best retrohale of a cigar that I've smoked in a long time. It's complex.
It's got that
There's
rich.
this like, yeah, it's really rich. It's balanced. I absolutely love it. The question I had for you, and I don't think y'all put it out, but what's the blend on it, or can you say?
So for all our blends, it's a little bit of a. They all end up sounding the same. All our cigars, binder and filler, use our tobaccos, and this one, the wrapper, is also our tobacco. So it's Corojo 99 wrapper, double binder.
It is Corojo.
Fillers, and again, it's Corojo 99, Criollo 98, Jalapa, Esteli, and Condega, which 90% of our blends could be described that way. So it doesn't really help give you a sense of it. In that regard, I mean, if I could mention farms, but the farms don't mean anything to anybody. They don't know, one farm from the next.
Yeah.
But that's why I kind of stress that the biggest part of this, besides that, Aniversario cigars all have tobaccos aged 5 years or more in some cases. It was aged 2 years after it was rolled, so you get the additional advantage of having a cigar that had sat for 2 years aging before it was put in a box.
Yeah. And I thought it was Corojo, and I'm happy to hear that it was Corojo because I'm glad I'm right. But I feel like for me, especially since the Aganorsa slogan is "Our leaf is our strength," to me, the defining tobacco for Aganorsa is the Corojo because it's so unique and so different. It's got that like toasty, barnyardy note that we talk about all the time. And that's what I fell in love with when I first started smoking Aganorsa tobacco. Obviously, your Criollo is unique. We've had the opportunity to do the tasting experience with you and with Fabian. And so getting to try the tobaccos is awesome. And the way that Corojo 2012 versus 99 is cool too. But this just reminded me of Aganorsa tobacco at its best every time I've smoked it.
Yeah, no, well, thank you, number one. And yeah, that's really the idea is to really kind of, for something like this, highlight our signature flavor, really have it be, instead of it being like our expression of a Connecticut or our expression of a San Andres or our expression of Habano. This is 100% our tobacco with the highlight of that Corojo 99 as the wrapper, and of course in the binders and fillers as well. And as you said, Corojo 99 is really what makes it stand out. Nobody really grows Corojo 99 in any sort of meaningful way, so it's a seed varietal that's pretty unique to us at this point. And so that, I think, is really the attraction of the cigar, is that signature flavor of a Corojo.
Now, it hasn't been on shelves for very long, only
a week, maybe.
A week,
yeah. A week, yeah.
Are you getting the same kind of customer response from others that you're getting from us? Which is, this is going to be my first time smoking it. I've had multiple people who have had it who think that this is the best thing that you guys have done. Period.
Oh, it's great to hear. I mean, we've had some good feedback so far. We've had it's just hitting the stores, so it takes a little bit. But the initial reaction, we have an Aganorsa Acolytes group on Facebook, and guys,
we're going to talk about that, by the way.
Sure, no, of course.
I need to hear about this tattoo thing, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's another story. Let's not digress. But yeah, so far it's been good, and again, it's a $30 cigar. It's the most expensive cigar that Aganorsa has ever released, and so. That also is always held to a higher standard. So every time I see somebody smoking one, or validating, as I would say, I'll shoot them a message and say, "Hey, what'd you think? What are your thoughts?" And again, either they're trying to make me feel good or they really love the cigar. But either way, I'm happy with the answer. So
you just kind of mentioned something I actually want to touch on for a second. When you guys are doing a cigar like this, something that's limited run, in kind of the landscape that cigars are in right now, with you see a lot of limited stuff. You see stuff, I don't want to say artificially expensive, but it is what it is. What are the discussions like when you're thinking about what this should be priced at?
So that's a great question. So one, most of our product is under 10. I'd say more than half is under 10, and then everything prior to this is under 20. And that's intentional, of course. Again, we're vertically integrated. We have the ability. Not everyone has that ability. If you don't own the factory, you don't own the farms. Those all add costs. I mean, those people aren't working for free. They're going to make a profit on what they sell to you, either for tobacco or what they make the cigars for. So we have an advantage in that way, and we've always prided ourselves on saying, yeah, there's lots of great cigars out there, but for what we're charging you, it's going to be very hard to find something that's as good or better. And with this, I think what it came down to basically is it's a special occasion. because it's only 1,000 boxes, that's only 10,000 cigars. We could use some tobaccos that we had sitting for a little bit longer. We age the cigars for 2 years. To sit on cigars for that long is a very long time. I mean, you're just all 10,000 cigars. The cost is just sitting there, money tied up.
Those are dollars locked up literally in a warehouse.
Yeah, so you're basically, and you're not paying, you're not getting interest on any of that. So it's just sitting there tying up money. And then of course the box, we went with a high-end box. That's going to add to the price, of course, when you do something like that. So I think all those factors combined, and the amount of energy we did with it. Like I said, it's been, I've been working on this project for years now. That the time that we've put into it, we kind of were like, hey, listen, this is something that we've really spent a lot of time, energy, and great tobacco on, and great production quality. Let's put it out there. Again, we didn't do 50, we didn't do 100 just for the sake of it. We said let's put this at a so that people know that this is probably the most time and effort we put into a blend ever. And again, at the end of the day, like I can tell you right now that there are some people that I was at a store the other day in Miami, and I saw somebody, they walked up, they look at the box, they see the box, they see the price, and then they, they're like, okay, this has got to be good type of thing, which again we all know that's not the case. You could have a beautiful, box and all that kind of stuff and it'd be total garbage. But I think if you're going to do something special like this, you've got to set it as something that's special, and that's both how it looks and how it's priced. I mean, I think I remember when years ago working for my uncle at Casas Cigars, Casa Magna was #1 cigar of the year. I think at the time it was like less than $6 a cigar.
Yeah, I was in we talked about that at the PCA when we passed by the booth. Like, do you remember when kind of thing?
Yeah, and it was. I remember being in an event. I'll never forget it. The guy was like, "This cigar is amazing. Like, I'll take a box." And then we told him what the box cost. And he goes, "No, I want a box." And it was like, "No, that's how much it costs." He's like, "No, for the cigar of the year." Like, he just couldn't accept that. And then he started wondering. It's like, so this was the cigar that if he had just seen the cigar on the shelf and seen the price, he would have not valued it as much. Simply because his expectation of what it should be. So I think it was also to say, hey, we can put out a cigar, that at that kind of price point that you're going to love, and like you've said, the feedback's been great, and people are tougher on something like that. If they spend under 10 and it doesn't burn the best, or it it's a little tight on the jar or whatever, they'll go, that's the cost of doing business. But on a $30 cigar or something, anything over 20, really, they start saying, man, if I'm going to spend my hard-earned money on this, I better have a absolutely outstanding experience.
Yeah, and I feel like y'all were in a similar tough situation that AJ was last year when he came out with his 20th anniversary, because AJ makes a lot of cigars for other people, just like y'all do. You're making cigars for Warped, Viaje, Illusione. So not only are people going to be comparing this cigar to your own line of cigars, but they're also going to be comparing it to the other stuff.
Absolutely.
And with this, you want it to be the best out of everything, not just your own line, because like you said, you're saving the best tobaccos, you're using the best tobaccos because it is special. It's a big milestone. And like I said, I think it turned out awesome.
I like the way you think. I like the cut of your jib, as they would say.
What was that like at Casada when that happened? When
they won Cigar of the Year?
Yeah. I mean, is that just,
it was nuts.
It had to blown the roof off, right?
So I heard a story one time, and you may not be able to say this is right or wrong, but I heard a story one time that Marvin Shankin, Cigar Aficionado, like did that almost maliciously. Like it was like,
I wish you would be malicious with us.
Like
that's right.
Like it was like, we're not prepared for this, and we don't know what we're gonna do now that it's happened. I don't know who told me that.
I think that's totally made up. Again, like I said, I hope to God he's malicious against me. Now, right. So in Aganorsa, I'd really appreciate if he maliciously gave me, in the company Cigar of the Year, or Eduardo, really. But no, I mean, it was not expected. The cigar had come out in August, so it had been released like 3 months before or something like that. And then, of course, you know how it is at the end of the year, the factories all close. So between mid-December and mid-January, it's closed. And so everything that was in the warehouse was gone in about 8 minutes. And again, I can't speak for any of the other guys that have won Cigar of the Year, but I have to say that was probably one of the most impactful on a company in terms of like, it was just a perfect storm of situation. The economy, it was 2008. Yeah, you had the Lehman Brothers, the market crash, everything like that, and they gave a cigar at $5.25. It was the least. It was the best price cigar on the list, and it was number one. And that just like the world was ready for that. I think at that moment.
Yeah, you reach this whole, this whole different group of cigar buyers, right? That maybe don't spend up on anything cigar related, other maybe at that time sub six, and you touch those customers where you don't always get it, so it creates this kind of even almost doubled up frenzy, if you will.
Yeah, so you have everyone that's looking for value that suddenly can smoke the cigar of the year for less than $6, and then you have the people that want to smoke the cigar of the year, whatever it is. There's lots of those guys that you've seen them. They come in the store with the list or whatever, and hey, do you have this one and do you have that one? And then you have the guys that maybe lost their shirt in the market or whatever, and we're like, I can't smoke these Davidoffs anymore, but I can still smoke the cigar of the year for $6. So yeah. I think it just attracted a huge disparate groups of people, and it took forever to catch up with that. I mean, really, I wish I was. That was literally my first year in the business. So like, I was it really? I was like, wow, this is great. People are just throwing money at you.
Yeah. Well, this is easy.
I wish I could have, I would have had more experience, at that time, or if God, I'm ever lucky enough for lightning to strike twice, where I'm at a company where that happens. I would definitely approach certain things differently, and because it was such it was like a whirlwind. Calls every day, all the reps calling you, hey, where's mine? It was nuts. It went on for several years like that, and trying to keep up production and all that kind of stuff, because it was made at Placencia, so it wasn't our factory. So and they were awesome. They're a great family to work with, and they're doing amazing things with their brand now. But again, it's always more difficult when you're coordinating with another factory, where if it's your own factory, you can kind of just say, do this or do that. For another factory, they have other obligations and things that they're doing. And again, they were super helpful. I really will always be indebted to, I was new to the business, and the Placencia family were great with me, and helping us get that brand out. But there's just, like I said,
what were you doing with them at that point in time? Or were you shuffling mail around to everybody, or were you stacking boxes in the warehouse? You doing all those things?
I handed out mail mostly. No, so I went to the factory for a while, and I spent like 6 months working in the factory, and then they sent me to Miami. And the factory was like, Manolo was he's old school, and he wanted me to be like, you got to know how to roll a cigar, which I suck at. I don't think there's much value to me learning that. But he wanted me to spend time and learn all the parts of the business, be in the field, be in the farm, be in the factory, learn all the processes, put on a band, see how hard that is. And again, I'm glad I did, because it gave me a real appreciation of all the processes that go into making cigars. And again, you get a better understanding of the logistics involved and all that kind of stuff, which is helpful. But that was not real. He didn't hire me to do that stuff. So I did that for 6 months, and then he sent me to Miami, or back to Miami, because I had been living in Miami at the time. And I started, I worked kind of under the tutelage of Brad Weinfeld, who was the national sales manager. So Brad was the national sales manager, and I kind of, spent several years kind of learning under him, and then he slowly kind of stepped away, and I took on that role. But that year I was basically kind of like working with the reps, going out traveling with them, doing similar things to what a national sales manager would do, but like without kind of the industry experience. And so it's a different business. Jason, you do other things, and yep. I know every business says, we're a unique business, but cigars are really actually a unique
Very
business.
Unique. Yes.
And so like kind of learning how people do things, and some of the things that to me were kind of like illogical, like learning that those were really, even if it's illogical, that's how the business operates, and you have to kind of accept those things. So I was learning all of that at the same time as like people were calling every day and yelling that their Casa Magnas weren't, had been off the shelf for however long. So it was kind of a whirlwind time. And again, I was meeting people I didn't know, I didn't have the relationships I do. I've been doing this, I think, 15 years now or something. So I had now it would just it'd be interesting. One, it would be great to be in that position again, but also, I've been doing this a long time now, and I know the business much better, and I have. Most of the retailers know me now compared to back then, where there's a young kid that doesn't send me my Casa Magnas, So,
yeah. Well, there has to be something really fun, kind of about that when you're there. That's happening. You're kind of being whipped around, touching all sorts of pieces of the business, and really getting kind of thrown to the fire in the grind of it when it's your the family business, if you will, that kind of thing. I mean, there's something very kind of startup-y about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was an interesting time because they had the company had gone through so for many years. They had distributed Hoya to Nicaragua, and then Hoya went to Drew, and the Casa Magna was a replacement for that. So that was, and Hoya was a very successful brand. It's to this day, obviously. And back then it was like a big part of that distribution portfolio. So they need something else from Nicaragua. So they brought in this new brand, and this new brand was, literally had been on the shelf for a couple months, and won Cigar of the Year. So it was a fun time, and I was in my 20s at the time. I was younger,
Sure.
and it was. I have a lot of good memories from that time and from working for my uncle. It was a really great experience. I'm always very indebted to my uncle and my cousins and everybody for giving me the opportunity to do that. I mean, I didn't have business experience in the industry, and this business, it's so ancestral. They don't hire anybody that's not in the business already. So
that's right.
I had the opportunity. Thankfully, there's also nepotism in the business, and so I benefited from that.
Nepo baby.
Yeah, so I had the advantage of. But again, I think probably people were like, "What's this, gringo that's somehow related to you doing in the business?" And I was there almost 10 years, and it was a great time of my life.
So that was actually something I was going to ask you about. Is what led you to leave working for your uncle and go work for Aganorsa?
So what kind of was happening is that my uncle is now fully retired, but as time was going on, he was kind of taking less of a role, and it's a family business, and there's a lot of family members, and everybody kind of had ideas of how to do things, and so they brought in a consultant, and this guy was he was a good guy, but he had set up grocery stores in France, and his mentality was basically all businesses are the same. You just improve efficiencies and logistics, and you lower costs, and it'll be fine. And I didn't really see. I didn't feel that it worked that way, and I had learned that myself. When I would go out there, he never really traveled around and met the retailers or things like that. He basically was in Dominican Republic, looking at spreadsheets and things, and I just felt that listen, if you're going to have somebody do it this way, it should be somebody that has has more confidence in what you're doing, because I'm literally going into places and they're kind of telling me exactly what I told you, and I'm arguing with myself, basically. I mean, the guy's saying exactly what I said, and now I've got to kind of be a good soldier and defend the company line. And it just kind of was like, I don't think this is not right for me. If you need somebody that's going to embrace the strategy, and it's not me. And so, but I left on great terms. I stayed several months. I gave them a heads up. I said, listen, I think it's time for me to do something else. But I'll give you I made it through Oktoberfest season, which they still do to this day, which I'm very proud of. That was the last time.
That was the last time I actually saw Manolo. He came to the shop and did a Oktoberfest event with us in 2015 or 16.
Yeah. That was
he was always awesome. Just the most gracious and humble guy. I mean, just
great
awesome
guy. Yeah, so much. And again, he was nice enough that that, and he would tell you that I'm saying this because he would tell you, I was like, hey, I want to do this beer themed cigar. Beer is becoming popular, and I think if we do something for Oktoberfest, it would be really, something to pair with Marzen style beer and everything. And he was just like, this is crazy. He just thought, people don't drink beer with cigars. And and one of the sizes was like a 6x65, which at the time that was I think one of the biggest cigars you could buy out there. It was 2011. And he's like, no, who's going to smoke this tree trunk? And it just, for him, it was just this crazy idea, but he let me do it. And to this day, they're still making Oktoberfest. So it was, like I said, it was great that he gave you enough rope to hang yourself with. And even if he didn't really get what I was trying to do, he'd let me do it. And some of those projects really panned out thanks to the fact that he was willing to kind of let me run with it.
Yeah. So how did Aganorsa come into play then? Because, we've been working with Aganorsa before it was Aganorsa. It was Casa Fernandez. Obviously, y'all have made La Colonia for us. We've had the privilege of meeting Eduardo Fernandez before, and we know his story about the pizza and the cattle and all this kind of stuff. And we always said that like Aganorsa or Casa Fernandez at the time could be bigger. Like we thought you had the best tobacco in the world. So how do you get there? And I don't know. I guess my question is like at the time, I don't know that it would have been the most appealing thing unless you saw the potential in it. So is that kind of where your head was, or did it just kind of fall in your lap?
So it's an interesting story is that, and you know him, Bob Morris.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when I left, Bob had worked with me at Casada. We had brought him on. He got back in the industry in 2012 as a broker. We had hired him at Casada. He and his son came on board with us. And then I think a few years later, it was 2015 maybe. They had Brian went to pursue other things, and Bob didn't want to do it alone, and they retired. But they had done a great job for us. I had a very good relationship with them both, so Bob, I guess, had come back into the industry because Eduardo Fernandez was his high school roommate.
Yeah, prep school roommate with Eduardo Fernandez. I swear to God, he said that every time he came in.
Well, he was very proud of it. He was very proud of it. And so it was kind of helping out part-time in the Carolinas and Virginias, probably more than most people would full-time, because Bob is obsessive about things, but it was a kind of a part-time thing that he was doing to kind of help Eduardo. And Eduardo had asked him, hey, if you see anybody in the industry that would be good for a national role of managing the sales and marketing and things, like, please keep an eye out. And so he contacted me, and I had I knew Paul Palmer, the president of the company. I had spoken to him on a few occasions, various events. It's a small industry, and I knew they made cigars for Lugion, and the tobacco had a very good reputation. And I had liked cigars I'd smoked from the company, either made by them or made for other people. But that was about the extent of it. They were not on my radar. They were not a company I was like, oh boy, I hope they call me or anything like that. It just wasn't something that I was in my view at the time. But he called me and he said, hey, would you do me a favor and listen to we might have an opportunity for you. And it really, in all honesty, out of respect for Bob, I said, sure. The door's always open. You never know how things will work out. But I really kind of assumed that I would kind of do that and leave the meeting and say, thanks so much, but I don't think I'm interested. But the more I learned about the company is exactly what you said. You're like, man, these guys have tobacco. Everybody in the business, you'd hear the same record play over. I could have recorded one person and then gone to all the other people and just played the recording, and they would have gone, yeah, that. And it was basically, they've got great tobacco. They're vertically integrated. They're making all these, hot brands for other people, but their own cigars are very confusing. The names are confusing. It's not branded well. And there's really just nobody, no buzz about it, no talking about it. And they didn't have sales reps in many territories. It just was, an afterthought really. And so the more I kind of learned about that, it was kind of like the way I always describe it is it'd be like if you found out, nobody knew about Fuente and like they knew about Ashton, like it's like,
that's right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's making, this is the guy making Ashton, like it doesn't make sense that your brands aren't as well known as the brands you're making for other people. It's your tobacco. And again, I'm not taking anything away. These guys all have done an amazing job. One of the things I always talk about is that the people we make cigars for are a great testament to the quality of our tobacco, because they could make cigars with anyone and they have great palates and they're well-regarded people. I mean, Dion and Kyle and Andre from Viaje. But like I said, it just didn't make sense that you could make cigars for other people that everybody would be raving about, and your own cigars people didn't really know about or talk about, or they didn't even know you made them. They'd go, oh, you're the company that makes JFR and things like that. So, but I saw that as an opportunity because I could help with that. I mean, I could help work with retail partners. I could hire salespeople. I could work with on the marketing stuff. I can't go to the factory and have them make. I'm not. Again, I would never say I would do the same way. Oh, this really needs more Corojo 99 from San Jose and lot 7. I mean, I wouldn't say stuff like that. Like you need to have that taken care of down there, and I can't help with that for better or worse. But I can help kind of spread the good word. And so that's where I saw this sleeping giant, is that, man, this company has every advantage that you could possibly have. And the advantages it has are the hardest to acquire. It's hard. I mean, owning farms, owning your factory, being vertically integrated. Those are all very difficult things to have. And the company had them. So then it just became a matter of streamlining, the name Casa Fernandez, a lot of Casas, a lot of Fernandezes in the business. So, it's like Smith with, Gringos.
That's right.
But those were easier fixes, in principle, and there are things I could help with as well. So that's how I ended up, and really it's been tremendously rewarding. I'm always thankful to Eduardo for giving me the opportunity, and really doing exactly what I said, with what I said with Manolo, where I said, listen, if you want to do the same thing and just have a new person, we're going to be very unhappy very quickly. So and they were. I think they knew the way they were doing it wasn't working as well as it should. Right. And so they were open to doing things differently. And that, to their credit, by allowing me to make changes, that really is what allowed us to grow at the rapid pace we've grown over the past few years.
Well, it's a nice alignment too, because, the time that you and I have known each other, I would say those kind of symbiotic relationships that come together occasionally, where what they were lacking is what you do best and bring to the table.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right? It's like a team effort.
Yeah. Those qualities that I think that you do the best and better than anybody in this business was one of their biggest holes in one of their biggest needs, right? It's a basketball team without a guy who can't hit a three, and you come in, you're shooting 50% from three. Like, that's what you do. Like, and it's what helps to fill those gaps and bring in what they do well, what you do well. You start to come together, and you see this progression of the company over the last 5-10 years. It's gone up better than anybody else.
It's fast. It's been cool to watch, because I feel like, because we've had the partnership that we've had for so long, we've kind of had a front seat to see the evolution of everything.
Yep.
Because we can preach the gospel of Aganorsa, and we have been for a long time, but it was exactly what you said. It was like we were using Illusione to introduce JFR. Now it's completely flip-flopped. We're introducing Illusione and Viaje and stuff using JFR. Like, you've smoked Validation, you've smoked JFR, you've smoked Anniversario, Cerber, whatever. Well, you would like this. It's made by the same people. It's got the same kinds of tobacco in it. And just the flip-flop that's happened over the last 6 or 7 years, really. I don't know how long you've been with the company now, but I feel like it happened overnight almost.
Yeah, you're right. You're right at 7 years, right? 2018 is when you came on there?
Yeah, the very end of 17. So basically, 2018 was my first year, really. I mean, I got December of 17, I showed up. So, but yeah, I mean, you say a couple of things there that are really important points. One is that, it's a team effort. Like, we brought in guys that that were to run territories that there was nobody. I mean, literally, we had territories where we brought in a guy and he did what the territory did in a year and a month. And so, because that guy had the relationships, and I had a relationship with him from either Casado or I brought him in or whatever it was. We have guys like Fabian now. It's really a team effort, and you have to have people that do things well that you don't do well. And the company didn't have somebody that do what I do. And then when Fabian does things that I don't do well, and then some our reps do things that I don't do well, we have a great office manager. So there's all these things that make it successful. And so that was really what I think the key thing is, that you mixed people that that were good at different things and brought something to the table, and it really was cohesive. And to hear you say, which is always, I think, one of my favorite things, is that we want our reputation to grow to benefit the people that we make cigars for. So when somebody says, I love JFR, and I went to Pipe and Pint, and they showed me Illusion, and I tried it because you make it or something. Like, I'm so happy to hear that, because that we want our partners to be successful too, and if we can contribute to that success because we're building our name, then that's great. And yeah, you guys, it's funny. Like, there's a few accounts that kind of were like, early like profits that people thought were crazy, like about, oh, this is a great company and there's a lot of great stuff there, and certainly Pipe was one of them, where like there was, you guys were doing private La Colonia with us, and you guys were already on board, before I ever showed up.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing real quick,
Yeah,
the one thing I wanted to say about Eduardo Fernandez is I think one of his biggest strengths is putting a team together, because how Aganorsa came to be to begin with was he wanted to get into tobacco, but didn't really have much knowledge about it. So he buys the farms from Pedro Martin, and then he gets this group of people together that at the time included Don Pepin, which we won't talk about, but like this mega group of superstars in the industry. And he started something, and he's still doing it. He's still putting a good team together, and it's paying off now.
So that's a good point, because, and Terrence, you could tell me if I'm wrong here, but a guy who's a businessman who's had the level of success he's had at other things could certainly be, I'll try to think how I want to frame this. You could insert himself on decisions versus, hiring the right people to make the decisions, right? You could lean on like, well, I was successful in this and I was successful in that. Like, you should do it like this. And what you mentioned earlier, which is the cigar industry is a unique industry, and you need a very kind of eclectic group of people to really make it click and go. You need the guys who are very artistic in the blending and the growth and everything like that. And you need people who are creative on the marketing side and the sales side. A guy like that could very much insert himself in there, and it doesn't feel like he tries to do that. He hires the people that he trusts to do that, and he lets them do those things. Would you agree with that?
No, for sure. He's very good. He's a great guy to spend time with, because he's very methodical, and he's very logical in how he thinks, and he's also, which is great, he's not ego driven, and so that, right. I think for all of us that gets in the way sometimes.
For the levels, I've had a chance to obviously meet him on multiple occasions, have conversations with him. About as humble of a person and soft spoken of a person, to me at least, with the level of success that he's had across the different industries.
I'll never forget the first time I met him. Taven brought him, because Taven was the rep at the time. And he came in, he spent time with us. He didn't have a watch. He didn't have a phone, which I thought was insanity at the time. But he leaves, and about 10 minutes later, Taven calls us, and he says, "Hey, we're coming back. Eduardo wants to get a picture with you guys because he appreciates you." And I was like, this dude is a millionaire multi times over, if not a billionaire. Like, why does he care about us?
Yeah, he's really good in that regard. He just is. He knows what he does well. So he's a very confident person. Like you talk to him about the stuff that he does well, and he does that stuff incredibly well. Yep. Like he can tell you exactly why he does it and why it worked and how all those things work. So he's totally comfortable. But when he doesn't know, he doesn't pretend to know. He asks a lot. One of the things that when I interviewed with him, he asked a lot of questions. He just kept asking questions and questions. And what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And was very less interested in trying to convince me of anything, but more to figure out like what I know and what I think. And I thought that was a really good approach to if you want to be successful, is that you find out what you don't know instead of just telling people things. And I've been blessed to have a great relationship with him. We do everything on a handshake deal, and that works for both of us. I think my thing is always, if I can't trust your handshake, you'll figure a way out of any contract.
That's right.
Else.
Yeah.
And so it's been that way for 7-8 years now, or whatever it is, 6-7 years now, and I'm very blessed to have the opportunity to learn from him. I mean, again, it's like it's a person that's reached a level of success in his business career that very few people achieve. It doesn't hurt to get to spend time with people like that, and so I get a real sense. One of the things that's best about him is he's very stoic. He's very stoic, and he's very zen. And like, for instance, I mean, we had a warehouse fire last fall, and I mean, there had to be at least, I haven't done the accounting, but at least probably $1 million of tobacco in there. I mean, if not much more than that. And he was in Spain at the time. He had to take like some crazy flight. He had to sleep in the airport in Madrid. I got him at like 6 a.m. on like a Saturday or Sunday morning. You know, I'm just like, this guy is going to be in a terrible mood. And he was just totally fine. And just, okay, so this is what we're going to do. And just took it very easily. And when you have that from him, that's great, because then you're like, because if he's panicking, you're like, oh man, we're, you know, so he's very calm in that way, and very, it's just one of these things where, so did I come back? Okay, sorry. No, he's just one. So you want that in a leader, you know, you want that, the guy, you look at, it's like when you're on the plane and, you know, you look at, maybe the pilot comes out, you know, something, it's starting to shake a little bit. If the pilot looks okay, you're like, oh, this is fine. The pilot starts going, oh my God, we're going to die. That's probably not a good sign. So, you know.
And I would venture to guess, if you talk to people who are associated with people who are successful at that level, that's probably a fairly common trait, which is you know, you don't get in most cases, let's put it that way, you don't get lucky to be that kind of successful. And certainly you don't get lucky and do it multiple times, right? In multiple industries. So that's the kind of person who can, you know, who sees a problem, who doesn't panic over it and says, listen, it is what it is. It's happened. You can't change what's happened. Let's figure out the best way to move forward, you know, correct any issues, or, you know, how we're going to make our way, you know, efficiently out of this, and not be like, you know, running around like your hair's on fire, and that doesn't do anybody any good, especially like you said, if you're looking to that person to lead you out of that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, that's not good, you know. So
you don't want to look at them.
Again, I think
panicked, because the only thing it's going to do is make you panic.
Yeah, no, it's not a good sign. It's also,
if he's running out of here, what the hell should I do?
Also, I think that, you know, that generation as well. Like another benefit of being able to working with Manolo and you know, my time with Aganorsa, I've met a lot of people in this business that have seen it all. You know, Benjamin Indes, Daniel Nunez, the Plasencia family, of course, Enrique Cejas' father, Jose Cejas. And these people, I mean, in some cases, you know, fled Cuba with $1, you know, and they're, including my uncle, you know, and they're, you know, lost their homes, lost their families, went through all sorts of difficult business times, you know, through the 70s and 80s, when the business was not, you know, not much to it, booms and busts and everything. So they kind of are battle hardened, you know, and you know, Eduardo, again, he came over, you know, I think he was 12 or 13 years old, and, you know, oh, you're in a new country, and now, okay, here we go. You know, it's a totally different life, totally different culture, and you're kind of thrown into these things. And I think those guys, as a generation, they face problems much better than probably the average bear. And again, like for that benefit, you kind of go, okay, you know, it's all going to work out. I remember when S-Chip came out and everyone was panicking about that. I remember Eric Newman was like, Terence, he goes, we've been in this business a long time. We've seen it all. It'll be fine. And it's true. Yeah. And it was, you know, it's good. A guy that had been around for 100 years at that point, business-wise, you know, it's good to hear somebody say something like that. You're like, oh, okay, good. Yeah, probably not.
And then you wonder, like, with that same person, the first time they saw it, did they react the same way? Because, like, you're probably not. But once you've seen it one time and you know you can keep your head above water and make it through it, you develop this thicker skin and level of confidence that says, like, all right, we may have to make some changes. We may have to make some adjustments. You know, we may have to make some hard decisions, but we're going to be able to come through on the other side stronger than we were before. I want to circle back a little bit and touch on something we talked about briefly, you had mentioned, which is partnerships with other brands, if you will. You obviously probably, you could tell me, no, we don't ever get this, but I doubt that that's the case. But I'm sure you get asked all the time, hey, I want you to make this cigar. Let's make this. I got a brand I want to start. With your current partners that you do business with, and anybody that you may be looking for or who approaches you, what does that look like? What do you look for? You know, how do you handle, because you have these different personalities. across cigars, you have these very eclectic personalities that are brand owners, company owners, however you want to frame it. Everybody comes with a different idea, with a different way of doing business. Is it tough kind of juggling these different personalities? Because, you know, when I think about who you guys do business with Dion or with Andre or with Kyle, and, you know, past
Yeah,
and
so
present,
I think that
different
there's kind
companies,
of a
it's
line
obviously
between
a
before I
juggling
came
act
to
to
the
handle
company
these
and
different
after,
personalities.
in the regard that, like, for instance, Dion and Kyle and Andre, and I have a great relationship with all of them. And, you know, they'll call me from time to time for some reason or another. Andre just sent me a whole bunch of craft beer from California, unexpectedly out of the blue, which was very kind of him. But they don't deal with me at all. Like, in terms of the business side, they go to the factory, they talk to Eduardo and the people in the factory. They do coordinate through our office, like, you know, the shipping and all that stuff and that kind of thing. But I don't have any real involvement with them. And they also they came in at a time when our own brands were not they were kind of on the back burner. They weren't the focus. So those guys have a different kind of relationship than I would
They
say
weren't as
people that have
established,
come in since, to some degree, because those guys, like, for instance, I mean, we have tobacco set aside for them. Like, Dion will go down and he'll say, yeah, I want this bale, and I want these, this lot from this farm, and put these aside for me. And the factory will do that kind of thing for him, as they've always done. With newer people, the approach is kind of like, the door's always open, number one. So we'll always listen. Hey, what do you think? Will this work? Is this a good, is this an opportunity here? More of that will go through me, and I'll handle those, like, we do Black Star lines. Like, that's something that I would handle. Some of the private labels we do, that are on a smaller level, I'll handle those. And a lot of times it comes down to, like, just does it work? Like, this is how we can do it. Does that work for you? And if it does, great. And then if it doesn't, then it's better to find that out now. I always joke that, like, I'm like the worst person to talk to about, like, creating a brand because, like, I try to talk people out of it. Basically, it's like, listen, it's tough, and everybody thinks they're going to make a cigar, and it's suddenly going to be, people are going to smoke it, and it's going to be magical or whatever it is, and you don't think about the logistics, and you don't think about the marketing, and you don't think about all these different factors that are really much more. I always joke the cigar of the important things is the least important. Not because it's not important. You have to have a good cigar, but there are tons of companies that have come out with an incredible cigar that have failed because they didn't do the other things well. Where there are some companies out there that probably have a mediocre product, but they do logistics and the marketing, and they handle that side of the business very well, and so they're able to survive. You have to have those factors in, and those a lot of times aren't the sexy part of the business. So I kind of am almost like try to scare them off. And if they still want to do it, one, great. They can't say I didn't warn them. And two, you want to know what you're facing. I would never want anyone to say, Terence, I wish it had been a little bit more straightforward with the difficulties of this, before I dumped a bunch of money into my brand. And so that's kind of, the difference between the guys that have been with us for a while and the guys that have come in more recently, I would say. I'd say, like, I work more closely with those guys. And I don't work really at all with the people that were there previously.
What do you see going forward right now with Aganorsa? Obviously, we had 25th coming out. You've got a new Supreme Leaf coming, but Ethan, I'm kind of stepping on a question Ethan wanted to ask you earlier, but where do you see everything kind of going? Where do you want
so that's a
to
great
see
question.
it
I
going
think
over
we're
the next
entering the
5,
stage. I
10,
think
15 years
up
with
until
Aganorsa
basically
as a brand
now. I mean, I guess you could say maybe in the past year, but certainly now. You've seen kind of like repackaging changes, name changes, all sorts of different kind of projects and things and additions and all that kind of stuff. You're going to stop seeing as much of that. What comes out moving forward will be very methodical. It'll be a size that fits in the line. It'll be, again, I'm just maybe a tube or something, maybe an addition to celebrate something special. But if you look at companies like Perdomo, Padron, Fuente, Oliva, they're not coming out with 600 things every year. I mean, they basically sell their core lines amazingly well and occasionally come out with something special for whatever reason or another. And again, even if you look at Fuente, which has a lot of, different opus stuff that comes out. But like their bread and butter is stuff, the Chateau Fuente and the short stories and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff, has been the same since time immemorial. And that's really what we have to start getting into a place where like Aganorsa is just a staple brand with our core line stuff. JFR obviously is already there, and Lunatic with a big ring gauge. That those guys just kind of are very loyal in that market is good with the Aganorsa lines, which go up a little bit more on price. And we're doing it. We see it like with our validation line, with our Anniversario line. It becomes people's go-to cigar or the rotational cigars, and it's not just the guys that want to try the new thing. And not to take away from those guys. Those guys are super important because they help generate the enthusiasm. They were the ones when we were doing the rebranding, and they were very they wanted to try the newest thing we were doing. They would talk about it. They'd tell other people about it. That's great for that momentum, but that's ultimately a very small part of the market. And again, you guys run stores, you know what I'm talking about. Your bread and butter customers, they walk in there, they buy their cigars, maybe some of them hang in the lounge and smoke one, but a lot of them just take them and off they go. And cigars for them are something they enjoy, but they don't think about it too much. They don't go on podcasts. And I always say, like with bourbon, for instance, I'm a big bourbon guy. I've been on the bourbon trail.
Yeah.
I can speak to you intelligently about bourbon. I'm not in any bourbon groups. I don't listen to any bourbon podcasts. I'm not, trying to meet bourbon distillers so I can get their autograph or anything like that. And I'm probably on a higher level of bourbon enthusiasm than most. So you've got to get people that they like cigars, and that's part of their life, but they don't define themselves by them necessarily. It's something that they enjoy, and those groups, what appeals to them, and how you access them and how you get their loyal business is a little bit different than how you get the guys that are hardcore. And I use this word lovingly, and I consider myself one of the hardcore like nerds.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I love hearing that because Ethan and I did a podcast towards the beginning of the year and kind of what we'd like to see, what we want to see. And one of the point of emphasis that I had as a retail shop owner was like, I get the limited edition stuff. I get the drops and the releases and stuff like that. I'm not knocking any of that, but a real emphasis and focus from companies on their core products and their core business, what 90% of our customers buy on a regular basis, farming those and taking care of those brands and those lines, from my perspective, was really important because that really is what drives the engine, what fills the tank up on a daily basis. Those smokers of those things are a huge, the largest probably chunk of that business. Like, and trust me, I totally get the anniversaries. We do them with La Colonia. We do them with you. You guys did our 25th and things like that. But those core products are what that same person comes in that Ethan and Robbie and the guys see every 2 weeks, every week and a half, getting a box, over and over and over again. So we've seen actually, nobody listened to that podcast, so I'm not taking any credit, but we've seen and heard a similar kind of call from other manufacturers that we've seen, kind of preaching the same thing you are, which is we have this core level of business. We need to make sure that we are nurturing it, making sure that it stays flourishing. That way that customer is always satisfied. That allows us to do these other kind of special projects that may drive enthusiasm and interest to the brand. So you become this kind of repeat buyer on the core product.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is I think bourbon is a great example of that, because if you look at Buffalo Trace, which as bourbon people know is like the creme de la creme, it's the Opus X, right? Pappies and B-Tech.
Pays the bills. The bills.
They have Fireball. Like that's
Ooh,
what
Fireball
built the
shots?
brand.
Are you calling for Fireball shots right now?
I might be. That's exactly right. Like Jack Daniels is doing all this cool stuff now, and I love Jack Daniels. The 14's awesome, 12, 10, Coy Hill, all this. Holy shit.
I think we just got struck by lightning on the outside of our pod. Did you hear that through the microphone?
I'm back.
Sorry, man.
We did the large. I don't know if you heard it through the microphone. A lightning bolt may have struck literally outside of our window.
Oh, yeah, wow. Okay. I thought it was me. I was like,
It shook the house.
Yeah. Like,
holy moly.
That was nuts.
I'm
glad we still have power. Can you hear us okay, though?
Yeah, it's perfect. I thought it was me. Okay. I'm like, oh my God, it's never happened to me before. I'm like, I'm trying to check the Wi-Fi. Maybe we went out. I didn't. So no, I'm just glad.
That may have been the closest I've ever been to a lightning bolt. I mean,
it was right. It was right outside.
That may have been in our parking lot.
Yeah, we're speaking so much truth that, you know.
That somebody says they don't like what they heard here.
Yeah. Too much.
Yeah, but anyways, the bourbon thing, you know, Jack Daniels got popular because of Old Number 7. Bourbon guys don't drink Old Number 7, right? Jim Beam got popular because of Jim Beam. Maker's Mark got popular because. So it's this mentality that you see in bourbon and other places. Like, we see it in the wine world even, right? Like, Caymus and everything is popular, but like their bread and butter is their less expensive stuff, because that's the thing that people are drinking on a daily basis. And that's what you want. You want people smoking your cigars on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why, again, I think especially with COVID, where people had government money and nothing to spend it on except cigars, booze, and Home Depot, it kind of inflated the market. Yeah, well, it was for a couple of years there. And it kind of made it where, people weren't afraid to just spend a lot of money on cigars. And I think what you're saying is that we're kind of returning to more of a normal state, which is good because we never did anything wild like that. We kept it being like, I mean, if you take, let's just say, a cigar that's $10, which is not outrageous, now it's probably on towards the sweet what the average cigar is. If you smoke one a day, that's close to $4,000 a year. I mean, if you're making $50,000 a year after taxes, it's probably 10% of your income, almost. So that's we take that seriously. A person has to be able to afford the product, and for us, we kept a focus on that. And in the short term, maybe we lost out on some opportunities because we literally had people saying, "You've got to come out with a $50 cigar. You've got to come out." Like we heard that, and we were like, I don't know if that's a good long-term play just to do it. Not to say that a cigar can't be that. It's just to do it for the sake of doing it because people will pay it. I don't know if that's a great strategy in the long term. So
I think it almost builds distrust in your customer base if you do that, because they're not. The one thing I'll say is, like, customers may not know what they want to smoke, but customers aren't stupid, right? Like, if they see that your cigar average cost is $10 and now it's a $50 cigar, they're going to think money grab. And then they're going to lose interest in the brand because they're going to feel like they've been betrayed where it hurts the most. And that's where that's their wallet.
Yeah. And again, there obviously cost of rollers, cost of materials, cost of everything has gone up. So there is obviously it's a real issue that we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is certainly, a lot of, attempt to really go after, a market that was willing to pay for that sake and nothing else. And so we never jumped on that at all. And that's certainly, I think, is benefiting us because that's what we want. Like you said, we want the guy to come in every day and buy, our Validation or our JFR Super Toro or, Lunatic or whatever it is. And that's their cigar. And that's what they go to without thinking about it too much. And I think that's better for everybody. I think it's better for us, certainly. And I think it's better for you. I mean, it gets difficult trying to have the flavor of the month every month. And then it comes in and then it's gone. And then this guy's looking for it. And he goes to your competitor because you don't have it because it's sold out, or it comes back in, but it's a different size and everything. And again, I'm not saying part of that is part of the business and part of the fun. And like the Supreme Leaf, we'll always do that and we'll always change the size. And that's a fun thing. But that should be the icing on the cake. That shouldn't be the cake. And so that's really going to be the focus for the next couple of years, is really making Aganorsa brands be something that every humidor, a store opens up, they feel they need to have our brand in there. A store needs us as part, not needs is a strong word, but like feels that like, oh, these are the brands that we want to have in our humidor because they're consistent, they sell day in and day out, and they're going to be available. And so that's kind of the shift, which is a little bit tricky because again, you have to kind of, it's like getting off steroids in a way, you gotta be careful, because when you come out with a limited line, you see that that bump. You see, all of a sudden 1,000 boxes are gone or whatever it is. I mean, that adds up. That's a nice boost to the month or whatever it is. But in the long term, it's just not sustainable. And so you have to wean yourself off that and start putting out stuff that, okay, find the winners, what you've done. Not everything's a winner. If this one doesn't work for whatever reason, eliminate that and then put the more focus on the stuff that people reach for again and again. And so that's going to be the strategy for the next few years is really consolidating our presence in the humidor as a go-to brand for as many people as we can gather.
So the one other trend question I had for you is, so you guys used to work with a guy named Noel Rojas, who I'm sure you know well. And he came out, he rebranded and came out with a cigar that he called KSG, the King of the Small Ring Gauge, right? Well, you guys are obviously the opposite of that with big ring gauges. We did the 10x100. Jason's
exactly
wearing
where
the
I wanted
T-shirt.
to go with this.
I'm
wearing I smoked the 10x1, the old 100 at the Pipe and Pint T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, is the guy that smoked it in 42 minutes still alive?
Barely. That's for different reasons, but yeah. He is.
Thank God.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be a continual focus and y'all are going to be the KBGs, the king of the big ring gauges? Or do you see it as more of a trend in the marketplace and those big ring gauges going away?
I don't think I think the big ranges are going to grow, if anything. Now, 10x100, obviously, that's
that's gimmicky.
That's
almost
a novelty.
Novelty. Yeah.
Yeah. Although even with that cigar, I mean, we have a guy that smokes it every day. He goes, I smoke the little ones when I can't find it. And the little ones, he means 880.
770s, 880s.
Yeah. But like our top 3 SKUs are 60 plus. The 880 is number 1. The El Chiquito 4 3/4 by 70 Maduro is number 2, and the JFR Titan Maduro 660 is number 3. And so I see those can keep growing. I mean, they're getting more popular. I think as people see a value in them. We blend to the size. So I mean, I even have a guy that he hates me because he smokes our 770, and he's like, I hate this size, but I love the flavor, and I think that the idea of it being sort of like a novelty or a gimmick or something like that, a 60 is a standard size. If you come out with 3 sizes and one of them is not 60, then
you're doing something wrong.
I agree with you 100%. I guess seeing CLE come out with the, what is it, 13
Tom can win. Tom won.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You get where I'm going with that. It's just
I joked with him. I even said, if he says on the advertisement for it, he says enough is enough. I was like, listen, don't come out with an 11 by 101 or something like that. Come out with something.
Yeah, don't go 22 just one over top of me. Yeah, don't price is right me here. Don't go $1.
Yeah. Just do something like way beyond, and we can call this a day. And he's like, all right, that's what I'll do. I mean, it's so that's why he put that in the title. Yeah. He goes, that was for you, Terence. So I was like, all right. So no, so that's obviously something that whatever. I mean, but really, Asylum and us are really, we have
y'all have the strong
on that market.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You and Asylum. The other question I had for you about the big ring gauges, a lot of times I know blends are blended to smaller sizes. When y'all are doing bigger ring gauges, are you blending the cigar to that ring gauge?
Yes. So when I joined the company, the first thing I said was, why do we make these things? And then I saw the sales and I was like, leave those cash cows alone. But yeah, it changed my mind about big ring gauge. And again, when I was at Casado, we made the Uber 6x65 and things like that. So it's not like I was totally like, what is this? But they blended the size. And some of the cigars, like on the Torch, the 4 3/4 by 70 size, I think is the best tasting size. I'm not a big ring gauge guy. I like, under 50 really for the most part, 46, 48. That's like a real sweet spot for me. But again, in terms of the market, that's not where the market is trending. And so we blend to the size. So the 770 is blended for that size. They're not taking a Corona and trying to scale that up. Like they're right. Making that cigar. And again, I think that's a lot of the negative image of the big ring gauge came from the fact in the beginning, I think manufacturers were basically like, these crazy gringos don't know what they're doing. And they just threw a bunch of Seco in there that would burn. And
I agree 100%.
yeah, it didn't have a lot of taste, and so people were like, oh, they're not flavorful. I mean, this is diving down another rabbit hole, but the idea that the wrapper is 90% of the flavor and everything like that, that's a made up thing. I mean, it's impossible. Number one, the percentages are made up. Nobody knows what percentage or anything. That's just a made up thing. So,
Yeah.
but in terms of like dominance of flavor, the wrapper is one leaf. I mean, it's all even on a robusto. It's one leaf out of a lot of leaves, and you say, well, if we switch the wrapper, it'll change the flavor. Well, I could take a ligero and change it to a seco, and that'll change the flavor. And so, I think that the big ring gauges, we found them can be as complex and flavorful. They tend to burn cooler, so you have an advantage with that. You can create incredibly complex cigars on a big ring. That's I think just an unfortunate reaction to the early days when they were just shoving a bunch of fillers in there, not really blending to the size.
Yeah, I remember when big ring gauges, because I feel like it was funny. I felt like Lanceros were the thing, and then all of a sudden it was 60. So we went from one end of the spectrum to the other
very quickly.
Yeah. And I remember big ring gauges hitting the market, and it was like, well, this is bullshit. Like they're just putting shittier tobacco in it to make it burn, and like, because if they're scaling the Ligero up, one, it's going to kill somebody, and two, it's not going to burn because that wrapper or that leaf is so thick. So it's like, there's no way this is legit. And now we're at the point where people come in here every single day and they ask, what do you have in 60 ring gauge or bigger? And
what sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, and it's crazy how many we sell. That was all I was going to say.
Yeah, and just because you mentioned Lancero. So the Lancero, and again, I like the Lancero as much as the next guy. The Lancero consumer is the opposite type of consumer as the big ring gauge consumer. The Lancero, and again, you guys can tell me you run a store, but the Lancero consumer is loyal to the size, not the blend. So he'll come in, he wants to try new Lanceros. He might buy a box if it's, but then he won't buy another box if ever, like, for a year, because he's trying another Lancero and another Lancero. So it's not, they're not brand loyal. They're always trying something different. They tend to be very finicky in terms of, they probably smoke less because they're more into the experience. So they're smoking it smaller, and they have to find the right time so they can enjoy all the flavors. The big ring gauge guy, he, like that 8x80, that guy goes in there, he buys that 8x80 and he smokes it every day. And like, we don't even, I would say, like, for instance, like with the 880, there's not even, you guys could tell me how many actual customers smoke that cigar. I'd say probably 80% of your sales in a store, 90% maybe, are from a few people, because they just smoke it over and over and over again. So a Toro guy, maybe that Toro guy smokes more cigars, but he's not smoking the same cigar. Whereas the bigger the size you get, the more brand loyal they are to that specific cigar and that specific size. And so from a perspective, it's great. You have, for both you and for us, you know that John Smith's going to walk in the store and he's going to buy 3 twice a week, and you can predict your sales for it. You can order based on that knowledge. Whereas like with Lanceros, okay, you bring in 10 boxes, you sell all 10 in a day. You're bringing another 10, and that lasts 2 years for whatever reason. It's a much harder. And again, I love Lancero. We, like, in our acolytes group on Facebook, we joke about how, like, they're always like, let's do a Lancero. I'm like, guys, like I don't want to go out of business. I don't want to be fired. We can't just come out with cigars that people are going to smoke once or twice and then look for the next thing. We have to come out with stuff. Yeah. And again, we have an Anniversario Lancero. It's amazing. Box press, 7F by 40. It's really bigger than a traditional Lancero, but amazing cigar. I love them. We do well with those in a few stores. A few stores really sell those well that have a clientele for Lanceros, and everywhere else it's the worst selling size.
But like you said, that clientele for that Lancero is probably just a few people.
Yeah, a few people.
Who buy that. Yeah. What was that? What was the so I was lounging on my couch watching TV with my daughter the other day, and one of the Liberty insurance commercials come up with the emu, and I said to her, I was like, what do you think that meeting was like when the marketing company came in and said, it's like, listen, I've got a great idea for this commercial. It's a buddy cop thing. You're like, oh, okay, kind of like Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah. But just think the Eddie Murphy guy is a giant bird. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? What was the meeting like? I mean, did it take convincing to get that 10 by 100 done? And how much of it did you think, realistically, how much of it was, I think this can draw attention, or I think this can be a real product going forward?
I was kind of, I can't take credit for the 10 by 100. Max, Eduardo's son, was actually the one that really pushed to do it. I was kind of like, oh,
Really?
it's going to be, yeah, I was kind of like, it's going to be in one size. It's a one cigar. It's going to sell like, I mean, just for comparative purposes, the 8 by 80 is like a $12 cigar and the 10 by 100 is a $40 cigar. So it's like a significant price increase.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, I didn't think we wouldn't sell them, but I was like, we'll probably just sell them one time. People will buy it to say they bought it and, put it on the shelf or smoke it as a joke at a party, and that'll be the end of it. So I was definitely wrong. One of the things that like I try to emphasize is I don't really have that many good ideas, quite frankly. What I mostly do is I listen to you guys and other people, and I take their ideas and I pass them off as my own. And I've had a lot of success with that.
A lot of good people do that, man.
And really, it's like you guys know the market well, so we listen to what you guys say. When we rebranded everything with the arm for Aganorsa, one of the reasons we did that is we did a survey. I don't know if you guys filled it out, but we sent it out to all our retailers. And one of the things was that it takes about 5 minutes for me to explain your company, and the names are confusing. And even with the Aganorsa name itself, it's kind of, it's a funny word. It's like, and then during COVID, and I'm sure you experienced this when people couldn't go in the stores or whatever, they'd call in, they'd say, hey, can you get me that cigar I always buy? And you'd be like, well, which one? Well, it's on the left-hand side of the humidor. It's like, well, yeah. What's the brand name? What size is it? Oh, I don't know. It's probably 5 or 6 inches long. They're like, they don't know what they're smoking, and they're smoking it every day. They don't know the name of it. So yeah. I was, that terrified me. I mean, think about the miracles that have to take place here. Somebody has to walk into your humidor, which is filled with great cigars, yep. And somehow walk out with ours. And then they have to like it enough to want to smoke it again. So already we have a lot of contingencies here. And then that guy walks in and goes, I was here the other day and, or 2 weeks ago, and I smoked this cigar and it was really great. Do you remember what it was? And maybe you have a POS and you can go back and look, but a lot of people don't have that. So then the guy goes, man, I don't remember. I mean, I don't know what I had for breakfast. I can't tell you what you smoked here 2 weeks ago. And then the guy goes, oh, okay. And he goes back to whatever he was smoking before. So you lost him. So for us, it was super important to be like, do something. So at least they can say, it's the cigar. It has an arm on the band. At least you know where to take them in the humidor now. Maybe you can find it, something that, there it is. Okay, that's what it looks like. And so that all came out from just talking to our retail partners, talking to consumers. You what you do is you try to just listen to your customers, and you hear the same kind of comments over and over again, and you make decisions based on that, and so that's kind of how we try to do things. And the 10 by 100 certainly wasn't my idea, but it's we've made it a regular line now because people just keep buying them. So God bless them.
Well, and that's good to hear too on the branding piece of it, because we're fresh off of PCA, and Ethan and I are meeting with you guys and our partners that we have in the humidor, but we're also entertaining some meetings with some brands that we don't carry. And then, as we get reps in all the time talking about what they have and everything like that. And one of the things that I kind of repeat all the time is like, listen, we have X space inside the humidor, and what is in there right now is not in there just for the hell of it.
Yeah, it's not a museum.
That's right. It's in there because it sells. So if you're telling me your opening order is 12 facings, and if I got to take, and I'm packed full in there, and I got to put 12 of your boxes in there, that means 12 boxes have to come off, and those 12 boxes sell. So you got to explain to me why it is, that what differentiates you. What are you going to do with your product inside this humidor to help it go? Because, I don't want to hear like, well, just have your guys hand sell it and stuff like that. My guys hand sell everything. Right.
Yeah,
like they're already working these things. Like them hand selling is not some new concept to them to talk about cigars. So when you do those things, and like you're talking about, to differentiate, to apply a reason or a statement to those cigars, so people understand what they're coming back to get, is a huge deal. That's why packaging is a real thing. That's why marketing is a real thing. The person needs to associate what they're buying and what they're coming back to get, right? Like you just can't, it's not, like you said, it's not going to be like, give me that 6-incher that I had last time or whatever it was. there's going to be
It's a weird
some
thing
sort
when a guy asks you to give
you the sixth entry. Yeah, we don't want to hear that, generally speaking.
For a lot of reasons.
for a whole host of reasons, you don't want a guy telling you to give me the sixth entry. But that's a real thing when you're talking about, and I can't speak to every retailer's humidor, but what's in ours is in there for a very specific reason. It fits a very specific customer. So it's got to be more than just, hey, put them out there and just let's see what happens.
Yeah,
you got good. Go on.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to give you credit for, and something I was going to ask you about when it comes to marketing, I've never seen someone who is so high up in a company, in a cigar company, be so active in the community. And it's not just the Acolytes Facebook group. I've Googled things about Aganorsa cigars before, and I've seen you posting in the cigar subreddit. I've seen you posting on Facebook. I've seen you on, I think, Twitter. Like, you're so involved in the community, and that's so important because you have, and the company has their finger on the pulse of what the consumer wants. And I feel like a lot of companies, a lot of times, just do what they think will work, but instead of doing what you think will work, you have legitimate feedback, not only from retailers, but from consumers themselves who say, I will buy this, right? Like, I will make this. And so you have an idea, a damn good idea of what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to get caught in the ivory tower, down there. And the reason I am in this business is that selling cigars is an excuse to go hang out in stores and smoke cigars. Like your anniversary party, I had such a good time at that. Like, it was, a car caught fire. It was crazy. Like, it was like that is so much fun. Not the car catching fire, but the like.
Hey, at least
we had I had a great time. I had that is really, and that's like, life is so short. We're all going to be gone before you know it. Like, having that type of fun, be able to do that is incredible. And I do that first and foremost because I enjoy it. I wish I could get a teleportation device so I don't have to sit on planes and drive around so much. But besides the getting to the place, like, I love being there and I love that activity. But beyond that is it gives me access to the real information. Like I said, I really don't have that many good ideas. I go in there and it's so much more powerful, Jason. If I can come to you and I can say, hey, Jason, you told me this, and this. Here's a product that addresses all those things. You're so much more likely to bring that product in than if I'm telling you, oh, this is why you should sell it, and these are the reasons, and you don't agree with those reasons.
That's right.
It doesn't work very well that way. The guy goes, well, yeah, thanks, go somewhere else. So that really, even during COVID, I traveled as much as I could. Even during that time, I didn't want to get used to sitting around all day long, which I can't do anyway. But also, I don't want to lose that access. I get so much from those interactions that benefit what we do that it would be a huge loss to just kind of stop that. And again, like I said, sit in the ivory tower and think I have all the answers, which I certainly don't.
All right. Well, we're going to get you out of here in just a couple of minutes, but a couple more questions to kind of wrap it up. I know Ethan wants to talk to you about this tattoo thing, but
yeah, I do.
So we'll end on that, but I want to ask you one thing. For the average consumer who maybe is not yet familiar with Aganorsa, we've got Supreme Leaf, we've got these big hitters. Give me something that you feel like is a bit underrated in your portfolio that you'd like to see some more shine on, or really kind of talk about a little bit.
Oh, that's a great question. I think something that's a little bit overrated because it's kind of eclectic in its presentation is Guardian of the Farm. Guardian of the Farm in the lines of it. It's got a dog on the band, but it's an amazing blend. It started off as a collaboration with Warp Cigars. It's named after the American Bulldogs we use to guard our fields. So each size is named after one of them. We tend to use more experimental tobaccos with the Guardian of the Farm line. Our Night Watch edition, the Maduro version of it, uses a shade-grown Corojo Maduro wrapper, which is something that is a proprietary wrapper we've developed, the only in the industry. The Cerberus has the 2012 Corojo as a wrapper on there, and so it's a cool line that has a lot of great cigars that I think that are a little bit underrepresented because you walk into a humidor and you see a dog on the band, and that's kind of, it's kind of, different, I guess, and so that would be a line that I feel, the people that like it love it, and that's kind of more of your boutique clientele. But I feel it could be a much bigger brand.
Yeah.
If we can kind of develop that story better, which is on us to do.
I got last two questions for you. One of them is an easy answer. One of them may have a story. My first question to you is, what kind of pants are the best, and why are they khakis?
So khaki pants. I don't want to say that I've redefined men's fashion for the 21st century.
Do you and Jim Harbaugh meet up on a quarterly basis and talk khaki?
Jim's a friend. He's a friend. We share a lot in common. No, how that all started is I grew up in the Northeast, and in the Northeast, everybody, if you don't work a blue collar job, basically you're dressed up. Like if you work any sort of job that's not like plumbing or something, like you're in a suit. And so that was kind of the mentality I had come from. And so when I joined the business, I started going out there in a suit. And one, I was young and I looked young. And you have some young looking guy in a suit going throughout the country trying to tell you, it gave a bad impression. I'll never forget. I was in a shop and I said, "Oh, we've got this great bundle program. They're a great deal." And the guy said, "Yeah, they're a great deal for a guy wearing Ferragamos or something like that." And it kind of shocked me, and I was like, "Oh man!" And so I switched to khakis and polos, which was more of a relax. That was what that's a Northeast thing. It's funny when I go back to the Northeast and I go to sometimes to like a family reunion or something. It's like, I'm back with my people. Everyone's in khakis and polos, but it's just dressed up enough that you look like you're doing business. You're a
That's
professional,
right.
but it's not so dressed up where can come across as putting on airs and trying to be like, "Hey, look at me, I got this fancy suit," or whatever it is. So that's how the khakis really developed. It was a way to kind of, wherever I go, it's never underdressed and it's never overdressed. So it's worked well for me. It's worked well for me.
I remember shortly after Fabian had just came on with y'all, there was a post. It may have been in the Acolytes Facebook of Fabian in polos and khaki pants, and I was like, he's been converted.
He's been converted. Yeah. That's right.
It was kind of like Clockwork Orange. We kind of glued his eyes open and made him watch a bunch of Gap commercials or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
So my second question is I need to know what's going on with this Aganorsa jacket tattoo thing that's going on in the Acolytes Facebook. So for anybody that doesn't know, Aganorsa's got a fan group on Facebook that's called the Aganorsa Acolytes, and it's super active. People posting stuff all the time. But I'm scrolling Facebook last night, and I see this post that you put up, and it's like, who's going to win the tattoo contest? And there's a picture of a chick in the hot tub that's got it on her chest. There's a picture of a dude holding a cigar with his foot that's got it on his foot. There's a guy that's got the no regrets tattoo right here, and it's right above there. What on God's green earth is going on?
The tramp stamp one is my favorite, but
the tramp stamp one, yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's basically we
got
made
it
it
crack
like,
out and everything.
Another idea that's not mine. So when Fabian came on board, he was like, let's make our the sales team varsity jackets where they can customize the colors and they can have their. I was like, why are we doing that? He's like, no, it'll be cool. We'll all have varsity jackets, And so I was like, all right, well, Fabian's got good ideas. Let's do that. And so everyone got to customize their colors and kind of make it their own, thing. And although letting the reps do that was a mistake. I mean, Palm, your rep has Ohio State colors.
Boy, David Palm.
Shout out, he's got Ohio State. The New England rep has Yankee colors. The Ohio rep has, it looks like an Arizona. It looks like something a chameleon would wear in a nightclub that sells hard drugs. I mean, it's like this crazy.
Like we saw it at we saw it at PCA.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it stands out. But it was a fun thing. And so, people want them. And so we did this, we had this promo where it's a jacket packet where it comes with a temporary tattoo and you take a picture. And, at the end of the day, guys, this is all about fun. If you're not having fun, get out of this
Yep.
business. There's easier ways
Yep.
to make money for sure. So we always try to maintain that aspect of it. And again, it's just fun. Everyone looks at the pictures, and the customer gets involved and gets to, you know, have some fun with it. And that's what we want. We want our consumers to feel like they're part of the group, and that, which it's true that we listen to them and we do what they say. But the more we can do things that kind of allow them to partake and have fun and be part of it, I think is good. And so that's kind of where all that came from.
And it's a win-win, right? Like the more they're involved in doing kind of, you know, silly, fun, kind of off the wall things, the more likely they are to associate with what they see inside the humidor.
And by the way, I use you guys as an example all the time with the 10 by 100 contest, where you got the shirt, you know, I smoked the 10 by 100 at Pipe and Pint. They put the times on the wall. I mean, that
Yep.
is just a great way to get people involved. I mean, I tell that story all the time. I'm like, I recommend they do it, to be honest with you. I'm like, man, you know, like these guys blew through these things just by making it fun, you know? And so the thing is, you always want to, what makes it fun too is working with people who are willing to do that stuff, you know?
That's
Some
right.
people, and it's fine. I always remember, it's at the end of the day, it's your store. You don't work for us. So we have to work with you. And some people, they are like, listen, put it in the humidor. I buy it because it sells. And they're not really they don't care too much about, you know, doing things like that. It's just not their thing, and they don't want to do it. But where we really see the growth, and for ourselves and with that store, and the stores that we see the most success with and are growing the most, never mind Aganorsa overall, the stores that will work with you on that stuff and make it fun and do, because we can't do it alone. I mean, you need the store to be a partner in it, and obviously it's got to benefit them. But if you have people that work together and make it fun together, it's way better, and it makes it more enjoyable, and the sales are way better, obviously, as well.
Yeah. Well, not to suck on your 10 by 100 here, but we'll wrap it up with this. We're obviously,
what a
we
way to
love
end.
Aganorsa.
Yeah.
That's right. We love Aganorsa. We love you. We appreciate that partnership and what you guys are doing. We're at the kind of point we do anything you would ask at this point. You guys make our La Colonia cigar for us. You did our anniversary cigar for us. You guys showed up at the anniversary party, which was a great time. And we appreciate everything you guys are doing.
No, again, likewise, it's all about, what I always say is passion for the product is the only metric of success. And without stores like Pipe and Pint, like it's not going to happen. So we're super appreciative of the opportunities that you guys have given us. And as I said before, you guys were true believers, you know, before there was, you know, as much evidence of justification for the faith. So thank you for having me, and thank you for the support.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll fit, but I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker. Yeah.
Be a long
Terence,
one, you know?
I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for the time tonight, bud.
Yeah, thanks, man.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
bud.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Validate today.
Cheers.
Get a flex. Let's get a flex.
There it is.
Yeah,
There it is.
that's right.
Yeah.
He broke the
Broke the mic. He's doing it. He's excited.